It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
China. I have to have my China.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
Well, it's good to see you folks once again. It seems that the Galactic News Nation is growing. Got a lot to cover today, perhaps too much for one day. I may have set myself up for failure, but we must try. So buckle those seatbelt, folks. Time for the action. Alright, chat. Well, looks like it is time for me to get to business here. Everyone calm down. Alright, chat. I'm gonna start off with something that's actually not the worst news I've ever heard. This is from 18 hours ago, Associated Press, where Democrat lands a flip seat in Alabama House.
Well, I am so excited to get down to Montgomery, and I think this is a giant step forward for Alabama. I think it's a victory tonight for women, for families, for Alabama in general. I want to get down there and repeal the bad ban on no exceptions abortion. I want to protect IVF and contraception, but I also want to be a champion for health care, mental health care, but health care in general. I really feel like we need somebody down in Montgomery who understands mental health issues. And
So yeah, that was Marilyn Lands in Montgomery, Alabama, where a Democrat has flipped a Republican seat in the House. So yay! Something good happened. Okay. Oh. Alright, real quickly, we're going to touch on this whole Ronna McDaniels thing. As she has very quickly lost her job at NBC.
NBC News has ousted former RNC chair Ronna McDaniel just days after hiring her as a paid political analyst.
Her ouster from NBC News coming after an unprecedented on-air rebellion from NBC's top anchors over Ronna McDaniel's role in subverting democracy in 2020. I want to read to you, Wolf, a statement that just went out from NBC Universal News Group Chair Cesar Conde. In the note sent to staffers, he says, "After listening to the legitimate concerns of many of you, I have decided that Ronna McDaniel will not be an NBC News contributor. No organization, particularly a newsroom, can succeed unless it is cohesive and aligned. Over the last few days, it has become clear that this appointment undermines that goal. I want to personally apologize to our team members who felt let down."
Yeah. So, if you're unfamiliar with that, and I feel like most people are, but in the case you're not, Ronna McDaniel is the former RNC chair who helped push the election conspiracy during the 2020 election. And yeah, people were kind of upset. However, I found it very funny because I saw like the language used by this guy, and I saw in like multiple videos of quote unquote revolt at NBC. It couldn't be less of a revolt. Like I gotta be honest. And granted, these people usually toe the line with much aplomb, but you know, like barely stepping out of line to say, oh, maybe we shouldn't let the RNC chair who's tried to subvert democracy. If that's a revolt, my God, I'd hate to see what happens if. Oh, fuck it. Let's just watch like little parts. We're gonna watch tiny little pieces of this, of a few of these examples of quote unquote revolt by NBC news anchors.
Look, let me deal with the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation, because I don't know what to believe. She is now a paid contributor by NBC News. So I have no idea whether any answer she gave to you was because she didn't want to mess up her contract. She wants us to believe that she was speaking for the RNC when the RNC was paying for her. And look, there's a reason why there's a lot of journalists at NBC News uncomfortable with this, because many of our professional dealings with the RNC over the last 6 years have been met with gaslighting, have been met with character assassination. So it is, you know, that's where you begin here. And so when NBC made the decision to give her NBC News' credibility, you got to ask yourself, what does she bring NBC News?
If it's Sunday.
Okay. What's this next one? Yeah, so that was Chuck Todd. Let's hear. You know, honestly, this next one is maybe the closest to a revolt. That didn't feel like a revolt to me, if I'm being honest. Wait, who's friends again? I'm confused. But yeah, this one's from Rachel Maddow. Who is that?
The person who is the head of the Republican Party.
MSNBC. This one felt more like a revolt than any of them, but that's stretching it still.
The person who is the head of the Republican Party during Donald Trump's time in office, and during his effort to throw out the election result and stay in power anyway, and during his effort to run for election again after having done that, is Ronna Romney McDaniel. And she pitched in and helped. She helped set in motion the part of the plot that involved sending fake Trump electors to Congress from states that Trump did not win. So Republicans in Washington could use those fake, fraudulent elector slates to contend that maybe Trump did win those states, even though he didn't. And don't believe me on that. There she is on page 23 and page 27 of the federal indictment charging Donald Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States. There's her personal appearance in this scene of the crime, as alleged by the U.S. Justice Department in this ongoing criminal case. In Michigan, where the fake electors are themselves now on trial, she told the state of Michigan in writing explicitly, do not certify the election results.
Okay. So yeah, revolt, obviously, a massive revolt. among NBC anchors. They are tearing down the walls at NBC. I feel scared for anybody working at NBC right now as this revolt is out of hand. This is Lawrence. Oh, God. Oh, no. Let's see what he has to say.
Well, there was a time when Sunday morning TV belonged to my friend Tim Russert.
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
The line between the press and political operatives has been crossed countless times in both directions. Lewis Howe was an Albany reporter, a chain smoker, who believed that the freshman state senator Franklin Delano Roosevelt was destined for bigger things. Lewis Howe became not just Senator Roosevelt's re-election campaign manager, but the manager of Franklin Roosevelt's political career. There would have been no Governor Roosevelt. There would have been no President Roosevelt without Lewis Howe. Tim Russert got his start in politics the same way I did, working for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
And with us now, a man whose Senate staff I served on a decade and a half ago, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the senior senator from New York. Senator, welcome.
Now, I'm biased, but I think Tim was the best moderator of Meet the Press or any Sunday show ever. No one ever questioned Tim Russert's fairness and objectivity, even when he was interviewing his former boss. And I have a feeling Tim Russert would have been cheering for his former protege and friend Chuck Todd yesterday after Meet the Press interview of the former Republican Party chair, Ronna McDaniel, who was hired as a paid contributor at NBC News last week.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation, because I don't know what to believe. She is now a paid contributor by NBC News.
She was not hired by MSNBC. I found out about it on Friday when it was publicly announced. I stopped inviting Trump liars like her on this program in 2016 because I've never seen a satisfying, successful interview of a Trump liar and have.
Oh my God, it's a revolt, everybody. NBC executives better watch out. These anchors are coming for their throats. These people paid millions and millions of dollars to tell us pretty biased stuff, usually, that, you know, is biased in terms of just being focused on the people with the power, not actually focusing on challenging the power, but just making sure the powerful get their messages out. But they are revolting, and you can see it here clearly. Lawrence O'Donnell almost destroying the entire set in this piece, completely just enraged. I've never seen Lawrence O'Donnell so incredibly upset. I'm shocked he managed to stay sitting during that piece. But thankfully, Ronna McDaniel has been ousted, and I do think that's the right choice. I just find it hilarious how it's been framed as if somehow, oh wow, all the news anchors they've lost it. They're crazy for pointing this out. How dare they? That's insubordination, sir. I'll be accepting your resignation by first thing tomorrow. Right on right violence is fine. Okay, Disco. Funny. What's next? Yes, okay. So this is an unfortunate situation, and usually I start you off with the gun violence. But in this case, we're going to use it as a segue somehow, which is gross. Actually, it's not really a segue. It's just in between two different topics, I guess. This is from 7 hours ago, where police officers gunned down a man who called for mental health help in him and his mother's apartment.
I want to associate.
Officers out of a drawer and came towards the officers. Both officers deployed their tasers that were effective, but a mother, being a mother, came to the aid of her son to help him, and by doing so, she accidentally knocked the tasers out of his body. At this point, the male picked up the scissors again, came at our officers, and they had no choice but to defend themselves, discharging their firearms. The subject was moved to a local hospital, where he was pronounced at the hospital. Our officers come here today quickly to help. This is a tragic incident for the young man, his family.
Now, the reason I felt it necessary for us to look at this piece is that there were multiple officers inside of this apartment. An individual had called for mental health help, essentially. Picked up scissors in an apparently aggressive manner, according to the police officers. We haven't seen body cam footage, so I'm not likely to believe their story yet. And they gunned him down, rather than, I don't know, doing something else. He had a pair of scissors. Yes, that's right. It was endangering people, apparently. I saw the scissors, and in fact I think they hold them up, and they're some of the bluntest scissors I think I've ever seen. They're like kids' scissors that you would cut construction paper with. I think it might have been in a different video. Oh, yeah. Children's scissors. Yep. Couldn't detain him in any other way. Impossible. Impossible. Just gotta murder a person having a mental health problem. That's why we send police to mental health situations. You know, because they help. Help people to a bunch of bullets. Rather than actual help. Okay. Now we're going to look at this situation, which I found just ridiculous. And perhaps you've heard of this already, but this is from 14 hours ago, where Trump made an announcement of sorts.
This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this. God bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important.
So, if you're not picking up on what he's saying, he's selling a Bible right now. This is the Donald Trump Bible, which has both the King James Bible and the U.S. Constitution in it.
Jesus, I say that.
Very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul. Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened to lose those rights. It's happening all the time. It's a very sad thing that's going on in our country, but we're going to get it turned around. Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country, and I truly believe that we need to bring them back.
Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing in this country. When he said that, I had to think to myself, what in the fuck does Donald Trump mean by this? So I tried doing research. Now, according to this search, approximately 210 of the 330 million people in the United States, or 63%, are Christian. So I just don't understand what he means by this. And so I tried to do more and more research into it. And wait, where did this piece go? This shit was fucking stupid. Is this it? Sorry, chat. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Yes. Here it is. I found it. This is a very, very serious report.
Jesus, I say that.
Be quiet, Omarosa. I'm doing a thing. Why do his hands look so tiny on the Bible? That's a great question. I don't have an answer to that. Maybe it's just because he has tiny hands. That's just one idea. So I found this report while looking into this because I was very concerned. You know, Trump is saying there's not enough Christians in the United States. How can that be if the studies say there's nearly 70% Christians in this nation? But thankfully, Arizona Christian University has done a piece for us. So now we can more fully understand why it is that maybe Trump and others are so concerned about this. This is from 3 years ago. So this has clearly been a problem for a long, long time. This is entitled, CRC report finds nearly 70% of Americans claim to be Christian. But what does that mean? Oh, God. Oh. More than 2/3 of American adults adopt the label Christian to identify their faith. But this broad adoption of that label may reflect little deep spiritual commitment to foundational biblical teachings or understanding of what is meant to be a Christ follower. And so now I get it. Now we all get it. You know, these people, they're not real Christians. They're fake. They're fake Christians. The people who are saying they're Christians, not Christian enough. That's the problem. That's the problem. Thank you, Arizona Christian University, for your scholarly work.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Anyway, back to Trump's Bible grift.
Have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country.
Oh, God. We've lost it. It's all over.
New at 4:30, while spreading hate.
That's it, people. You heard it. And in no way is Donald Trump selling these Bibles for $60 a piece because he really needs money, because he's very, very rich. Okay, I just want you to all remember that. Okay? He's totally doing fine, and all this bail money and settlement money that he's having to pay, it is not causing many problems. That's why he's selling Bibles. It's got nothing. I'm sorry. That's not why he's selling Bibles, okay? It's because he loves Jesus so much. That's why you always see him going to church on Sunday, you know, always talking to his pastor. I don't even know what denomination Trump even is. But maybe that's just because he's such a Christian. He's keeping it secret from all of us. And this, yeah, that definitely has nothing to do with money problems. Yes, exactly. Monope gets it. Monope gets it. He's very rich, and his hands are actually very large. See, those are all, it's factual information right there, chat.
Well, new at 4:30, while spreading hate reached historic levels.
I forgot. What the fuck? How did I do that? Nah, okay, I'm back. So this piece, I was too busy laughing at Trump inside. This piece is from 4 hours ago from ABC 6 Philadelphia, where apparently hate crimes, or at least white supremacist propaganda, is actually down. However, that's amidst a somewhat disturbing trend.
Well, new at 4:30, while spreading hate reached historic levels across the U.S. in 2023, here in the Keystone State, the numbers have dropped. That's according to the Anti-Defamation League. Now, these new numbers reveal nationwide white supremacist propaganda distribution jumped to more than 7,500 incidents. That's a 12% increase from 2022. At the same time, it took a dive in Pennsylvania with 189 recorded incidents, representing a 46% decrease from the more than 300 incidents.
So yeah, it's an unfortunate graph. And there's two reasons why I wanted to watch this, because it's a very short piece. It's only discussing really Pennsylvania, but this up 12% nationwide, not good, right? However, in terms of the election, this is actually maybe good. I can't be 100% on this, but as Pennsylvania is supposed to be technically a swing state, you would think a lack of white supremacist propaganda might actually help Democrats, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Reported the year before.
We're talking about more than one every other day. So even though it's a decrease from what was an astronomically high number.
The ADL says they've also seen an increase to a larger degree of targeting the LGBTQ+ community with hate propaganda. Numbers reveal incidents skyrocketed by 141% in 2023.
And then there's that, which is very unfortunate. Up 143% against LGBT people, which is a fucking disaster. And it's honestly a little frustrating because, I mean, not even that. I'm sorry. I mean, that's obviously frustrating. I think I made that one clear. But the situation with the ADL, right? Because for the longest time, I respected the shit out of the ADL, and I had, you know, like I had the assumption generally that they would always tell me the things that are true, and that they would stand up against all sorts of bigotry and hate and whatnot, and you know, point it all out for us. However, more recently, with the situation with the massacre currently happening in Gaza, I have a lot more skepticism of them than I did before, unfortunately. That said, I'm not gonna discount those numbers about trans people just because the ADL said it. Maybe if they start talking about anti-Semitism, then I might start questioning them, as I do get the sense that they're pretty biased on what that means. Okay, real quickly, maybe not that quickly, but relatively quickly, I want to look at something kind of chill. Not necessarily chill, but maybe less catastrophic than everything else we usually look at. So for me, it's chill. But let's look at two different sports gambling scandals that have happened within the last week or so, or at least been brought to my attention over that time. I think maybe one of these started off a little bit sooner. But first, let's look at this from ESPN from 2 days ago, where baseball player Shohei Ohtani makes a statement regarding current gambling scandal involving his coach, I believe, but not coach, trainer. I can't remember now. One of his close friends or affiliates in some way. I'm pretty sure they're gonna make it clear here. MPJ. Next. That's next. I know what you're talking. Yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming. I want to point out the show's interpreter is Will Ireton, Willireton, who'd ask that you not film this right now on your cell phone if that's possible. And after show's
というかまあショックですし、今はそういうふうに、感じています。
Well, first of all, thank you very much for coming. I wanted to be here today to be able to talk. I'm sure it was very tough. It's been a tough week for fans and team officials, and I'm very grateful that the media has been patient in this process. Just on a personal note, I'm very saddened and shocked that someone who I'm trusted has done this.
まあ現在進行中の調査もありますので、今日話せることにまず限りがあるというのもまあご理解いただきたいなということと、まあまた今日ここに詳細をまとめた分かりやすく皆さんにお伝えするためにまとめたメモがありますので、そちらの方に従って 何があったのかというのをまず、説明させていただきたいなと思います。
So obviously today there's things that I'm limited in being able to talk about. I hope you understand. I do have a document in front of me that I will refer to that will detail what has happened.
まずはじめに、僕自身は、何かにかけたりとか、誰かに代わって、そのスポーツイベントにかけたりとか、それをまた頼んだり、っていうことはないですし、僕の口座からブックメーカーに対して、誰かに送金を依頼したことももちろん全く、ありません。
So I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf, and I have never went through a bookmaker to bet on sports.
本当に数日前まで、彼が、そういうことをしていたっていうのも、全く知りませんでした。
Up until
Okay, so I just refreshed myself on the situation, and it was his former interpreter who is accused of placing maybe illegal bets with his funds. It's very what's the word? It's somewhat convoluted, if I'm being honest, but it's exactly the sort of situation that I think comes from something we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But let's just look at this next story involving the Toronto Raptors.
Jontay Porter is not
Sorry.
Jontay Porter is not exactly a household name. The 24-year-old has only played 26 games for the Raptors this season. But instead of talking about his play on the court, today his coach was fielding questions about gambling allegations involving Porter.
I cannot comment. The investigation is ongoing, and so all of those questions, they got to go straight to the league, and they will be the best equipped to answer those questions.
The league is taking a close look at two games. One on January 26th when the Raptors played the LA Clippers. The other on March 20th when the Raptors faced the Sacramento Kings. In both of those games, at least one online sportsbook noticed an unusually high number of bets placed on some of Porter's in-game stats. Specifically, bets were placed against him on reaching predetermined totals in certain categories, like total points and how many three-pointers he would finish with.
This is a fringe roster player who happened to be seeing some minutes because the Raptors were dealing with some injuries at the time, and there was a lot of money going in on people thinking that he was not going to hit certain statistical milestones.
Porter left both of those games early after playing only a few minutes.
All of Jontay Porter's unders were bet, paid out a lot of money to the point where some major sports books lost what they said was the biggest prop loss of the entire season, and right away that triggers immediate red flags, something's going on.
This investigation comes just days after Major League Baseball announced it was looking into a gambling scandal involving an interpreter working for Japanese star Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ohtani denied any involvement.
You can't watch a sporting event and not see...
Okay. Now, do I know with any certainty that any of the people accused of these things did the things that they're accused of? No. No, I don't. However, I think this sort of stuff is going to become more and more common, especially since gambling, sports gambling specifically, has become legal in most U.S. states. It is now a massive business. So let's look into that real quickly with this next video. This is actually from like a year ago. From I think we've watched at least one of this guy's videos before. This is Wendover Productions, and this is how the sports betting industry quietly consumed America.
Companies have avoided paying millions upon millions.
Settle down. You're way ahead right now, pal. Go back. There we go.
As inadvertent as they come. Hastily drawn up and jammed into the entirely unrelated Safe Port Act, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act passed through Congress in September of 2006, then, with President Bush's signature a month later, became law. The unremarkable bit of legislation banned gambling companies from taking payments over the internet made in violation of state or federal law. For the old guard of online gambling, the likes of Full Tilt Poker, PokerStars, and Absolute Poker, the new law would prove an existential threat. For a set of upstarts, though, it functioned as the legal foundation of an as-yet untapped market. In trying to close one loophole, the act opened another with this seemingly innocuous exemption, that betting and wagering did not include participation in fantasy sports, which were deemed as games of skill, not chance. At the time, the distinction made sense. Fantasy sports were fundamentally different from any sort of online gambling. People didn't get rich off fantasy sports, nor did they lose thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of dollars in one fell swoop. Fantasy team owners wagered on season-long outcomes with their friends from school or work and poured over stat sheets for bragging rights as much as money. They might have been obsessed, but they were never quite addicted. Then, in 2009, a fateful backyard brainstorm at South by Southwest completely altered the trajectory of fantasy sports and, as it would turn out, sports betting. The company that coalesced under the Austin sun was called FanDuel, and it was everything that fantasy wasn't. Countering the traditional season-long league, FanDuel offered daily fantasy. Rather than just playing with your buddies, the service provided tournaments and cash games to compete against countless others. Whereas traditional fantasy leagues only saw minimal financial exchanges in league buy-ins and annual draft guides, FanDuel moved major money. Just one good day, they advertised, could net a couple $1,000s. And, thanks to the Unlawful Gambling Enforcement Act of 2006, it was online and in your pocket. What had been slow-moving and cumbersome was now fast and convenient. Just play from your phone, win, and cash out that very same day. Young people followed, and so too did money. FanDuel's first rounds of funding topped $1 million, then $4 million, then...
Whoa. I just noticed something that is very troubling. Very, very troubling. You got 11 likes, but we have Benjamin Sisko over here. And we got, what's her name? Angela Lansbury, but I can't think of the character's name right now. Fuck. I'm sorry, chat, but I had to take those away from you. Only 11 likes, so we need more likes. That's the only problem.
2013, $11 million. As investment climbed, so too did winnings. That same year, the platform crowned its first $1 million prize winner during its December Fantasy Football Championship and dished out more than $150 million in prize money overall. The following year, FanDuel partnered with the NBA, while its rising competitor, DraftKings, nabbed the MLB and NHL. Suddenly, companies that didn't exist just years prior were outspending the entire beer industry, running ads every 90 seconds on national TV. With palm-of-your-hand convenience...
Think about that for a second. In a very short period of time, betting, ads for sports betting, overtook ads for alcohol and beer. Like, it was always something of a cultural meme that sports were the time to watch beer commercials, right? But it was funny, I was recently watching a basketball game with one of my friends, and we kind of remarked on the fact that literally every single ad that we would get in between the games were all sports betting ads. Literally every single one. It's overtaken it, and is now a $235 billion a year industry. Think about that.
Cheap buy-ins, mouthwash...
Hold on, I'm gonna zoom past a little bit of this. But the reason that I wanted us to even look at this is because this is the kind of stuff, you know, scandals about betting are going to happen more and more, right? You already see it a lot with people claiming refs are trying to affect games and things like that. But it's not just going to be refs, it's going to be players, it's going to be all sorts of different people trying to get an edge, since there's so much money involved in this now. And it's a mostly predatory industry.
To daily games, mobile gaming apps unlocked in-game betting that people could wager on in the middle of the sporting event they were watching on TV. People had more options and easier access than ever before, and the established gaming houses of Vegas took note. Joining FanDuel and DraftKings were online sportsbooks by familiar names like BetMGM, Caesars, WynnBET, and Penn National Gaming's Barstool Sportsbook, while various other casinos and companies launched smaller, more regional online outfits. In 2019, US betting revenue doubled that of 2018. Then 2020, despite sports as an entity disappearing globally for a matter of months, saw revenue nearly double once again. Then in 2021, revenue tripled to over $4.3 billion a year. Simply put, sports betting just exploded. Or at least, it looked like it exploded. It looked like an unmitigated force of nature, perhaps triggered by humans, but hardly managed by them. But that's what the industry wanted it to look like. To support the plot that they had laid out to legislators prior to legalization, they wanted it to look like this was only natural, that there was always a huge volume of betting behind closed doors, and that sector growth merely represented this phenomena moving into the legal space where it could be taxed and regulated. Well, that was undoubtedly part of it. A huge additional chunk of this growth was precipitated by a carefully choreographed, long-planned deluge of spending and effort by the burgeoning industry, a well-funded scramble for market share before a hierarchy could set in. They knew that if the industry looked anything less than unstoppable, it could be stopped. Step one was to normalize the practice, and for this, the industry was gifted a massive opportunity: the COVID-19 pandemic. With the world of sports reopening into a new, less physical, less social context, the industry realized it could capitalize on the degraded fan experience to effectively manufacture a new normal. Spend was slowly and steadily growing pre-pandemic, but come Q3 2020, as the NHL, NBA, and MLB restarted their seasons in various forms of biosecure bubbles, the industry spent 3 times more than any prior quarter on TV advertising. And logos went everywhere. FanDuel adorned the boards around the NHL's pandemic-proof rink in Edmonton, on screens sitting where the NBA's courtside seats would normally go, on the pitcher's mound at MLB ballparks, and anywhere else where a competitor hadn't already inked a deal.
Now we're not going to watch this whole thing, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about what essentially he gets into in this video, which goes into sort of like the algorithmic, psychological nature of many of these apps, where you know, like a mixture of psychology and technology is being used to suck people dry, to keep them betting even when they shouldn't, even when they know they shouldn't, trying to get it essentially into your head, as social media likes to do. But instead of getting you to stay on the platform watching stuff, it's to keep you throwing money at this or that proposition. You just want the stats. Don't tell me about your money line. Fair point. Fair point. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna look a little bit more at this. What do you call it? This bridge collapse in Baltimore. So let's get into that. This first video shows ships lining up outside of Baltimore after the bridge collapsed, closed the port. There are a number of ships currently in the bay that have to be rerouted. You think gambling is more of a scary addiction than heroin? Wow. As a person who's never tried heroin, I wouldn't know, but my God, that does it gives me even more concern. So yeah, as you can see, there's about a dozen ships out there. We're just gonna go to this next one immediately. Wait, what are you doing? How and why did it just switch on me? What the fuck? Whoa, it just skipped back. What? Why is this even in here? Must not have cleaned this list out fully. Okay. Thank you for that. Very helpful situation. Okay. Fuck, where is it? Okay, this next one's from ABC News. Where there are 10 ships now trapped in the port of Baltimore. So there's ships trapped in it and ships stuck outside of it.
Jay, first, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is detailing the Biden administration's response efforts to all of this. You've been covering this. What's he saying?
Well, first off, Terry, we're waiting to hear remarks that he's going to make moments from now at the White House press briefing behind me. He'll speak again, but he's spoken over the course of the day and yesterday, as you noted, from Baltimore. He toured the site of the collapse yesterday. He's indicated that while infrastructure is a priority of the Biden administration's, while shoring up bridges is a priority of the administration's as well, there is no bridge in the country, in his view, that could withstand the kind of direct impact that this one did from this container ship, a head-on collision like the Empire State Building hitting the pier of a bridge. Here is the Secretary on Good Morning America earlier today.
What I will say, though, is that, as times have changed, as bridge designs have been modernized, each generation of bridges is more resilient than the last. One of the reasons why we put such a focus on roads and bridges in President Biden's infrastructure plan is to make sure that we have the strongest possible infrastructure.
Now, we've heard that.
Is it just me, or does Buttigieg have like a very shallow sort of intake of breath? Anyway, I just figured we would start off with that. Now we're going to move onto this piece from 12 hours ago. This is Democracy Now! Baltimore Key Bridge collapses, likely killing 6 immigrant workers who got no emergency warnings. But yeah. Sorry, wait, I feel like I was gonna say something about that video, and then somehow segued too quickly. I've completely lost my train of thought. Fuck it.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Authorities in Maryland fear 6 missing construction workers died on Tuesday when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed after a massive cargo ship crashed into a support column. Maryland's governor said the crew on the ship was able to issue an emergency Mayday call before colliding with the bridge, which allowed authorities to stop incoming traffic. This is audio from Broadcastify.com archive of Maryland Transportation Authority first responder radio traffic just before the bridge collapsed.
Yeah, if we can stop traffic, just make sure no one's on the bridge right now. I'm not sure where. There's a crew up there. We might want to notify whoever the foreman is, see if we can get them off the bridge temporarily.
10-4, once the other unit gets here, I'll ride up on the bridge. I have all interloop traffic stopped at this time. Once you get here, I'll go grab the workers on the Key Bridge and then stop the outer loop.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Authorities are still investigating the cause of the crash, but say the ship leaving Baltimore Harbor lost propulsion and control of vessel around 1:30 a.m. Tuesday. The crew of men who were filling potholes on the bridge were from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, had been in this country for many years. They include Salvadoran father of 3 named Miguel Luna, Honduran father of 2 named Maynor Yasser Suazo Sandova, 2 Guatemalan men, and at least 1 Mexican national. In a minute, we'll speak with Maximilian Alvarez, editor-in-chief of the Baltimore-based news outlet The Real News, who's been reporting on the bridge collapse. On Wednesday, he interviewed Jesus Campos, who's Salvadoran and works for Bronner Builders, the company that employed the workers on the bridge.
We do concrete repair on the bridge. We remove the damaged concrete and put new concrete. That is what we do at the company.
At night, with fewer cars?
Yes, with less traffic.
Oh, good to see you, wicked viewers. We're currently just discussing a little bit about this Baltimore bridge collapse. This is a Democracy Now! Video. Discussing the immigrant workers who were on the bridge. who were likely all killed during this because they received no warnings.
We enter at 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. That is the time they give us. But we have worked there for a long time, and there has never been a mishap like what happened.
Yes, it was a horrible disaster. Do you know if the workers got any warning?
No. No, I understand they were on their half-hour break that they give them. Like they were inside the trucks. There were 4 trucks or 5 trucks that have to be on site. They were inside the trucks, supposedly.
For more, we're joined by Maximilian Alvarez, editor-in-chief of The Real News, based in Baltimore. Welcome to Democracy Now! Condolences to your city. And if you can start off by talking about what you've learned about these workers. I mean, the warning did go out, albeit there was just a few minutes, enough time to stop all of the traffic from going over the bridge. Talk about what more you understand about these men. 8, 2 have been saved, 1 in critical condition, and 6 presumed dead.
Well, thank you so much.
I think it's pretty crazy that these guys had no way of contacting them. Do they not have phones? I mean, and you'd think that a crew of dudes working on potholes would have, like, I don't know, walkie-talkies or radios, something. Like, that's insanity. And if you didn't hear me, because I couldn't tell if the raid had already happened, but it's great to see all you wicked viewers showing up in here. We're talking about the Baltimore Bridge right now.
For having me, it's an honor to be here, but as you rightly said, you know, our hearts are broken today here in Baltimore. There's a hole in our hearts as big as the gap where the bridge used to be, and there's a hole in these families that will never be filled again, and that's really what's first and foremost on our minds today. And there's still a lot that needs to be learned and investigated about this story, but as you mentioned, what we know and what Jesus Campos told me yesterday and what I've seen from other reports coming out is that, you know, these workers who work for Bronner Builders, you know, a contractor that's been in operation for decades and contracts with the state of Maryland on many other projects, you know, that these workers were working with Bronner in the middle of the night to fix potholes on the Key Bridge. The men who we believe now to be dead, 6 of whom, you know, like were on that bridge, were, according to Jesus, on their 30-minute lunch break, sitting in their cars or near their cars when the bridge itself collapsed. When I asked Jesus if he knew that if the...
It's fucked. I'm like just sitting here imagining like being on, you know, my break at work in, you know, a truck eating some like snack or something, looking at my phone, having no idea what the fuck is about to happen. Oh my god. And the families, like that's the first thing this guy mentioned, and it's just a very worthwhile point. All these people that were on the bridge who died and weren't rescued. God, Jesus. Yeah. Oh. Good to see all you folks. There's something else I was gonna say. Oh, by the way, Monop is totally right. Everybody should definitely like the stream and hit that subscribe button if you aren't already, because we are 4 likes away from unlocking Captain Benjamin Sisko right now from Deep Space Nine. All we got is Lonely Scott Bakula over here from Quantum Leap to help us get through this situation.
Who received any warning about the Mayday call? He told me very explicitly, no, they did not. And I believe that we hear that in the police dispatcher, right? The police knew that there was no direct line to the foreman and to the folks on that bridge, and so the police were racing to block traffic coming in on either side of the bridge, and were waiting for backup so that one of the officers could go onto the bridge and warn the crew. But every second that went by, was a second lost, and they did not have time to reach the crew on the bridge. But I think the more egregious problem, and the question we should be asking about, is why the folks on that bridge doing that dangerous work in the middle of the night had no direct line to emergency dispatch when they are clearly working in a potentially hazardous environment, and these massive mega ships are passing beneath their feet. And so far, that's what we know. I mean, like, there are, again, like, details.
Also, what if somebody had like a health emergency? But the fact is, and they're going to get into it, so in fact, we're probably going to watch a great deal of this. Fact is that they were, potentially, some of them were undocumented immigrants, and oftentimes undocumented immigrants are treated worse than citizens because you can cut corners and you don't have to worry. Yeah, well, don't have to. I'm using that in a very sarcastic sense, I think, but I think that's also the psychology of many people who are hiring undocumented workers for things like this.
That need to be confirmed, but, you know, like, there's a lot in this story that will appear different if you don't know construction workers, don't know a lot of immigrants, don't know a lot of undocumented immigrants. Just one example, and I'm not saying this is exactly what happened, but I'm saying that I've watched a lot of local news in the city over the past 24 hours, and there were reportedly 2 workers who were pulled alive from the water yesterday, one of whom went to the hospital, one who reportedly refused emergency care, refused transport to the hospital. And so anchors have been saying, well, I guess that person was fine and they just went home. That may be the case. But again, if you know workers in construction, you know immigrants and undocumented folks, your mind immediately thinks that was a worker who was deathly afraid of going to the hospital because they may be undocumented. And like, that's a situation that so many workers in this country are actually in right now. And I can only imagine, after going through that, if that was the case, what must be going through a person's mind to refuse emergency services at that moment. So there's still a lot to be uncovered, but right now the families are grieving, the fellow workers are grieving. Jesus was largely in shock when I talked to him, and I was very emotional afterwards, having talked to him as well. You know, my foster daughter is from Honduras. She's undocumented. She's sharing posts with me all day from Honduras of people trying to figure out if these were their family members. It's devastating, Amy.
Maximilian, I wanted to ask you this issue of Latino workers and immigrant workers being killed or injured on the job has been a national problem and almost epidemic for years that hasn't been given little attention. 18% of all workers in the United States are Latinos, but 23% of the fatalities in workplaces are among Latinos and disproportionately among immigrant workers. Your response to these facts vis-a-vis the constant, what we hear in the media all the time about migrants being criminals and being a danger to society?
I appreciate.
Well, my response to that is that it's factually an inaccurate framing, because undocumented immigrants and first-generation immigrants, people on visas and green cards and things like that, commit less crimes than citizens of the United States. It's just factually. Go look it up. Do we watch the rest of this, or do we get to the... How much do I have left? Let's see where I'm at. I'm right here. This is how much we have to cover. How long am I in? We'll watch a tiny bit more of this.
The question, Juan, and I think this is really important. This is something I want to really stress for people. I mean, first and foremost, as you said, I'm
just gonna say this to people in chat right now. We are 1 like away from 20. You may not know it. You may have been focused so much on what's happening on the stream, you forgot to like the stream, and you're holding back the rest of chat from their desired emotional support character. And it's an unfortunate situation. It makes me sad inside.
That so many folks are reaching out because they feel connected to this story, even though this was a unique, horrible accident. There are so many elements in this story that working people around the country feel connected to. I was just in East Palestine, Ohio this weekend. I've had residents there texting me all day because they feel connected to this in a way. And I've had construction workers and building trades folks doing the same. Why? Because construction is still one of the most deadliest jobs in this country, far deadlier than police, right? I mean, we just last year, 6 crewmen on a construction crew were killed when a car in Baltimore County, when a car barreled into them. That's just as many who died yesterday, and each one of those lives is precious, and we should care just as much about those lives that are lost. We're killing over 10 times as many construction workers just by roadside accidents around this country every year alone. Those lives matter too. But as you mentioned, Juan, I mean, like this is not just about, you know, construction workers. This is not just about contractors and all of that. I mean, the problem is so much bigger here, and it really goes to the heart of the discourse that we're having in this country, where, you know, Donald Trump and the people who have been poisoned by, you know, like his you know, just like evil rhetoric.
Is racism and hatred. Yeah. I think we get it. I think we get it. Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Okay. Oh my god, is that 20? You have 20 likes. Wait, what? Okay, I'll update it on the next video. Well done, chat. Well done. I'm gonna skip that one. Oh, no, actually, I'm not gonna skip this one. This happened, like, literally, like, right before the stream started. And I think ended while I was streaming. This is the NTSB, which is now confirming that the cargo ship that ran into the bridge, Maryland Bay Bridge, what's it called? The Francis Scott Key Bridge. That ship was carrying hazardous materials. This is the live press conference that happened just moments ago.
For Humpday, and I'm the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. With me today is one of our newest board members, Alvin Brown. Member Alvin Brown this is his training launch, and we have our investigator in charge, who we call the IIC, Marcel Muse. As I mentioned, we arrived on scene yesterday at about 6 a.m., but the team came in from across the country throughout the day. It was really a day to get our bearings. We set up our family assistance program and also began to develop our investigative plan and request documents that we need in order to conduct our investigation. Today is really the first full investigative day on scene. We were able to board the vessel. I boarded the vessel around noon, along with our marine safety team and our highway safety team, and I can talk about that in just a bit. But I want to take a moment before I discuss our some of the factual information we've been able to identify and speak to the families. On behalf of the National Transportation Safety Board, I just want to extend our deepest condolences.
Hold on. Sorry. While the condolences are nice and everything, I would like to get us to... Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find an actual spot in this because the live stream itself was quite long, but the actual post of the video is, well, it's completely changed everything up. I'm trying to think of where this even starts. I think it's like right here.
Our arrival. Approximately 6 hours of VDR data was provided to the NTSB. The recording included the time period from midnight to 6 a.m. By regulation, the VDR is required to record 30 days of history, and the NTSB is continuing to obtain more data. The times expressed below, as recorded by the VDR and converted to local Eastern Daylight Time. All information is preliminary, and subject to final validation. The VDR data is comprised of audio from the ship's bridge, as well as recordings from the ship's VHF or very high frequency radios. The quality of that audio varies widely because of the high levels of background noise and alarms. Additional analysis will be performed at the NTSB's lab to filter out the audio and improve its quality. Additionally, the VDR recorded limited sensor data. An example of that data recorded includes the ship's speed, engine RPM.
Okay. Oh, shit. I just realized I didn't have the video on. Sorry about that, mowing up. That's my bad. Unfortunately, because I suck at my job, and because I think even more so due to the fact that this situation is, just happened right before, I fucked up. So instead, I'm going to read this from you, not from you, for you, from, TulsaWorld.com. Oh, it's by the Associated Press. And yes, how about some video for you? That seems nice. Okay. The cargo ship that caused the Baltimore Bridge collapse was carrying hazardous materials. The National the National Transportation Safety Board said. The NTSB chair, Jennifer Humpday, said there are 56 containers aboard containing hazardous materials, including corrosives, flammables, and lithium-ion batteries. She said some containers were breached and a sheen was identified in the water that will be dealt with by authorities. Let's close that. So it doesn't sound like it's of the gravest nature. I was unfortunately unable to verify what that was going to be exactly right before the stream, but thankfully AP posted this story for me to read. Very helpful for once, AP. Okay, now moving on to the border, as well as well, a number of things here still in America. First one is from KTSM. Actually, do we do it in this order? Yeah, fuck it. This is from KTSM 9 News, where hundreds of troops have been deployed to the border.
Container shipping is responsible.
Oh, don't do this. How's this in here? Don't do this. Go next. Yeah.
Well, the battle at the border isn't letting up. The Texas Tactical Border Force is deploying hundreds of soldiers to our border. Hundreds arrived in El Paso this afternoon. Our KTSM 9 News reporter Tirsa Ortiz is live in the Lower Valley with more details on how the force plans to help. Tirsa.
Well, good afternoon, Estella. That's correct. 2 planes landed just hours ago, carrying about 200 specially trained Texas forces. Now, details are limited from the Texas military. However, it's clear that state officials are concerned with the growing tensions at the southern border. A spokesperson with the Texas military did tell our KTSM crew that the Tactical Border Force specializes in civil disturbances. Deploying units like this to border communities is nothing new, often sent out to areas of high migration to
So, yeah, there you go. 200 troops deployed to the border because apparently, of course, it's a crisis, according to all of the important people. But seems like a massive waste of money and resources when they could, I don't know, spend some money to make more arrival centers, to improve the checkpoints themselves to get people in. I don't know, to create more. Fuck it. We're just gonna keep this moving. We're gonna watch this next one from Democracy Now!, where they're probably gonna say things that I'm trying to say. Well, they're actually definitely going to say things I'm trying to say much better than I am, so let's do that. This is from 12 hours ago. According to Democracy Now!, quote-unquote, we don't need more detention centers. Fernando Garcia on SB4 and the new spending law.
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We're ending today's show in Texas, where some 200 tactical border force soldiers with the Texas National Guard were deployed in El Paso Tuesday. This comes after Texas erected a second border fence covered in razor wire Friday, and riot police attacked migrants who tried to pull it down. The federal spending bill Biden signed into law this weekend increases funding for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. This also comes as Texas's harsh new anti-immigrant state law was put back on hold by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals last week after the Supreme Court briefly lifted a stay. SB 4 giving local police sweeping powers to arrest and deport anyone they suspect of entering the United States without authorization. For more, we go to El Paso, where we're joined by Fernando Garcia, founder and executive director of Border Network for Human Rights. Fernando, welcome back to Democracy Now! Can you talk about these 200 soldiers that have been deployed to the border, and also the whole debate over SB 4 that almost went into effect if the Supreme Court had their way, then didn't because of a lower court ruling?
Hey, good morning, Amy and Juan. Yes, thanks for having me again. Listen, I mean, we have a very a situation at the border where the state of Texas is massively militarizing our community, especially here in El Paso, but also in the rest of the Mexico-Texas border. Just to give you a little bit of context already, is that the state of Texas has deployed 10,000 state soldiers already, the National Guard troops in our communities, especially along the border, and now we see an increase of that militarization. And I think we're very concerned, specifically having special troops or special forces coming to El Paso with no training on how to deal with civilian population, and much less dealing with immigrants and children and refugees. So I think this is just, again, the effort of the state of Texas to serve the federal powers of especially enforcing border enforcement laws, or in this case, immigration laws. So again, we believe that it's not only illegal what the state of Texas is doing, but also it is violating many people's rights, especially in El Paso region.
And Fernando, could you talk about the decision by President Lopez Obrador in Mexico?
You have lumpy pillows. Okay. Are you headed off, Atticus? Good seeing you. Have a good night. You gotta do something about those lumpy pillows.
Oh, he blasted Texas's SB 4 law and said that Mexico won't accept anyone deported under that law?
Yes. And to be very clear, what the state of Texas has done immigration enforcement and deportation system, from actually allowing the police officers, state police, ask immigration status, show me your papers questions, but also detain, arrest members in the community in Texas, especially Latino members, and then a state magistrate, a state judge would decide the deportation of that person that was arrested. And this is impacting not only migrants or refugees that are coming across the border, but also everybody in Texas, whether you're in Houston, in Dallas, and Fort Worth. So everybody would be subjected to as before. So what President Lopez Obrador did is that he said essentially that he's not recognizing the authority.
Which makes things very, very complicated, because if America puts people, forces people out using SB 4, which is this legislation that's being contested and uncontested and contested again, it would essentially put people in limbo, like in that movie The Terminal with what's his face, Tom Hanks, like a version of that, but worse.
Of Texas to actually enforce federal immigration laws and start deporting either Mexicanos, Salvadoreños, or any other immigrants back to Mexico. So I think that was the right decision, but however, the state of Texas is still building up this immigration state force.
And also, the new spending bill that President Biden just signed, it provides a massive increase to ICE detention infrastructure and for more money for the...
This guy is so pissed off. Oh man, you can just see it. Like the second he brought up the spending bill for the ICE infrastructure, and I think they're doing like a bunch of like hiring as well, or at least they're trying to. This guy's like, oh, this fucking shit. Don't get me started. Well, please get started, sir.
Customs and Border Patrol and ICE. Your response?
Well, that is unfortunate, again, I mean, because we know what some extremist politicians like Mr. Greg Abbott is doing already in Texas, which, by the way, other states now are trying to mirror as before, in Georgia and Louisiana. And the fact that the federal government doesn't have an alternative to that, doesn't have not only an alternative policy, but also an alternative narrative to this so-called invasion of criminals, the way that migrants are being portrayed, it just add to the problems, because we don't need more detention centers in the interior or at the border. We don't need more border patrol as is in the DHS funding that was just approved. What we needed was more welcoming centers. We needed more accountability and oversight to federal law enforcement at the border, but also we needed for the federal government to stop Texas, stop the governor of what they are doing in terms of enforcing illegally and unconstitutionally as before, that is impacting Latinos, people of color, migrants that are looking for asylum and protection. I mean, what you saw in El Paso.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I think that made things pretty fucking clear. God. Yeah, rather than giving more money to ICE, should have been building more arrival centers, as he said. Using the power of the government to stop Texas from enforcing an illegal law, among other things that would be helpful, probably regarding asylum status and the bureaucracy surrounding that. And let's say even, I don't know, housing, which let's look at. But this one's in Canada. This is from 10 hours ago, CBC News. What it's like to live in a shipping container shelter.
So where are you living right now?
Number 4, right there.
Cool. So what's it like in there?
It's square.
It's square.
It's got 4 walls, a roof, a door, and a window.
What would you like to say to the folks out there who don't want to see this here? They think that it is a bad thing for the community.
Open your mind up.
Yeah.
The people that need help in this is the next step in everybody's direction in getting something better for themselves. Like, take your head out of your asses, man. Like, come on. There's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah.
You're not here, and you're not living like this. So don't judge people, because the people are actually trying to do better for themselves.
What about the neighbors? What are they like here? Like, what are the other people who live here like?
I've known them all for years.
Is that right?
Often, yeah. I know them well. No problems with them guys.
Was there any resistance at all from the folks who were used to living in tents to cleaning up and getting into a new situation?
No, they actually were excited. They had been asking and waiting to get in, and then when it happened, they were quick. It was actually a really exciting time for them too, and then now looking and making these spaces feel a bit more like home. And they're actually starting to dream themselves, talking about barbecues, picnic tables. So it's really nice. It's given them that hope that we wanted.
With this particular project, like, how are you going to measure success?
I think there's some physical things. One is just the site and how we manage it as far as cleanliness and garbage and so on, because that really affected the neighborhood. The other is of how individuals, the participants, actually react to it. So far, so good in its early stages, but hopefully a number of them will actually be able to sit with Fresh Start staff and plan the next stage, and hopefully transition to another apartment in which Fresh Start also provides.
See, this is a reasonable solution, right? That could be scaled even more. technically. You know, by stacking them, installing like staircases to doors and things like that. Yeah, I think it's a great solution, and you can see from the people who are living there, they seem to really care, and they want to try and make their living situation better, but perhaps they just need some help. Maybe they're having a tough time. Maybe they're dealing with drug addiction. There's all sorts of things people are dealing with, you know? Trans people, for instance, are more likely to become homeless because of problems at home. So all sorts of things that might lead to somebody being homeless. Homeless people are not a monolith, but we should be trying to help them rather than drive them out of cities. What the fuck happened? I'm sorry, chat. I'm kind of just monologuing right now because I'm very fucking confused. I had a video in here. Did it get taken down? What the fuck is going on? I had a video. And now it's gone. Is there a hidden video? Oh, there's an unavailable video that's hidden. Did they take it down? Get the fuck out. Oh, God. Hold on. What's this lady's name? Oh, I found it. Is this it? Well, whatever. It's... Yeah, I think it is. I don't know how this came out of the watch list. What the fuck is going on? Okay. Sorry, chat, but, unexpected turn of events. Just have to fix this situation, as I had another video. And here it is. Okay, there's that. Let me reload this now. Okay, this is in America.
So where are you living right now?
Number 4, right
Oops.
there.
Actually,
So what's it like in there?
It's square.
stop. Please stop. And actually, let's finish watching this and then we'll go to that next one. Because I just realized we didn't watch this whole thing. At least I don't think we did. Did we? Maybe we did.
Sense of hope. With at least it's cleaned up, it's not intimidating here anymore, and people can walk by and not have to see big piles of garbage and stuff like that. We're trying to keep this community safe. We're trying to keep our families safe, and we want to keep these people safe as well. So how do we do that? This isn't ideal, but we all have to live in this community, and we need to start building these relationships and start building trust again.
Okay. I'm just going to skip directly to this next video regarding housing in San Francisco. It was supposed to come up before this one. Somehow it got deleted out of my list, but I don't want to skip it. This is from 9 hours ago, where San Francisco supervisors have overturned the mayor's veto of housing law. And so she had vetoed a housing law banning certain size buildings. What the fuck was that? Hold on, chat. I just heard something crazy. Outside the space station. I will be right back. Okay, chat. I am back. Unexpected, but there was a crash up in space. Happened right outside the Galactic space station. Thankfully, it would seem everybody is all right. I'm fine. No, me? I'm fine. I was just concerned about the crash that happened outside. But it seems that everybody's fine. Okay, that threw me off. I can see smoke right now. That's not good. I hope somebody called the cops. Or actually, the fire, whatever, the fire station, probably. Oh, Jesus Christ. Breaking news. Alright, what am I doing next? That totally threw me off. Thankfully, this next video is not serious at all. Actually, no. This next video is serious. It's the next one that's not serious. Well, it's less serious. It was a spaceship crash, but yeah, it was. Thankfully, everybody's fine. At least it would seem. This next video is from NBC Bay Area 9 hours ago, where San Francisco supervisors overturned the mayor's veto of housing law. Yes, a flying car crash. BCAT gets it. A flying car crash. You heard the...
Well, there are new developments out of San Francisco.
You heard the crash? Okay, that's hilarious. I didn't realize it was that audible.
This morning, and a tug of war at City Hall. This is with the promise of new housing caught in the middle. It comes after the mayor vetoed a measure to limit the size of certain projects. Today in the Bay's Ginger Conejero-Saab, live for us in San Francisco this morning. And Ginger's supervisors basically just put their foot down despite the need for more homes.
That's right, Marcus, but the supervisors supporting this say this does not mean they are anti-housing. However, they did overturn Mayor London Breed's veto in a vote of 8-3, which means that certain limits will be put on high-rise projects in San Francisco's historic neighborhoods. The legislation calls for limits on the height and the scale of housing developments in the Jackson Square Historic District that's seen there on the map in yellow, the extension to that district, and the Northeast Waterfront Historic District seen also on the map, but in green. Now, supporters say the legislation is partly the response to a proposed 200-foot tall housing project on Sansom Street. President Aaron Peskin, board president, I should say, sponsored this legislation, saying the older buildings in these areas.
Wolves have spectacular hearing. Yeah, supposedly. So yeah, if you didn't quite understand what they were saying, the San Francisco supervisors, or the legislature of San Francisco, passed a law banning buildings over a certain height. The mayor vetoed that, and then the San Francisco supervisors came in and overturned the mayor's veto. So that is not good because it keeps them from building essentially adequate amount of housing, right? It limits the amount of housing that can be built in San Francisco.
To be preserved, but in her initial veto,
He looks like
Mayor
he's gonna
Breed
sneeze.
argued it would
You're right, he did look like he was gonna sneeze.
her critical new housing projects. Of course, this all comes in an election year with Mayor Breed already in a battle to retain her post, and Peskin previously suggesting he may be ready to enter the race. Supervisor Peskin called the veto a political move, while the mayor released a statement that reads in part, Quote, our current housing shortage is the result of decades of bad policy decisions and inaction, and it will take years of consistent and relentless work to make the necessary change to get more housing built. Now, housing, Marcus, as you know, is a huge topic in San Francisco with developments coming up all the time. This is by no means an end to this topic and debate here in the city. Back to you.
One that has been going on for quite some.
You know, I realized, yeah, that video that was up must have been deleted and taken down. I'm very sad because the other one was fucking hilarious. There was this one dude, they like interviewed this one dude on the street. They were like, I forget exactly how they framed it, but like they asked him like how he felt about the mayor's decision. He's like, it's a good idea. And they're like, why? He's like, because we need housing. And it was the most based answer I'd like live answer. He was just so straight up with it. I don't know why the video got deleted, unfortunately. I covered it better too. I liked the coverage better. Whatever. That's my life. I just didn't want to miss this piece today because it linked up with the other thing I was talking about. And it happened very recently. This next video is not as serious at all. This is from BBC Archive. 1994. Are you ready for the internet? Tomorrow's world.
Imagine a world where every word ever written, every picture ever painted, and every film ever shot could be viewed instantly in your home via an information superhighway, a high-capacity digital communications network. What that would mean is you could transform your home into a mammoth interactive entertainment centre, with the odd stock exchange and shopping centre thrown in. It sounds pretty grand, but it all comes down to computers communicating. And in fact, that's already happening on something called the internet, that anyone in the world with a computer and a modem to connect it to a telephone line can subscribe to. There are over 20 million people connected up, and one person in particular I know is connected is the American President, Bill Clinton. And I know that because I used this computer to write to him today, and I've already got a reply from the White House, and here it is, right. Thank you for writing to President Clinton via electronic mail. The President is committed to integrating this dynamic medium into the White House. And it goes on to give some details of his government's policy to encourage the building of information superhighways. Now, I can't electronically mail our Prime Minister, John Major, because he hasn't...
What do you hate? What are you hating? What does everybody hate right now? Me? What did I do? Are you talking about the privatization? Is that what we hate? Because I also hate it.
Got a modem, and I can't find out what his government's policy on information superhighways is because it hasn't got one, at least nothing beyond the usual thing of leaving it to market forces. But you can do more than just send messages on the internet. There's loads of useful information in here. You can get news, recipes, and I found this satellite weather map in there. And there are interactive services as well. This is a shopping centre, and here it says it's just off the information superhighway. That's its address, and inside there's a flower shop, and it shows me the picture of the flowers I can order and tells me how much they cost. Then all I have to do is tap in the address I want them to go to, and of course I have to give them my credit card details to pay. And there's even some stuff about us in here. Let me just find that for you, because we've just put some details on the internet about tonight's programme and some pictures as well. It's all good fun, but what limits the potential of all this is that it's relatively slow. You can't a video down this. And in fact, most of that stuff we've had to receive in advance. That's because copper telephone lines are really designed for people to talk down, not for computers.
So yeah, it's kind of hilarious. I just wanted to watch that for context for where we're at in life right now with everything. Also privatization, but everything in that video as well. Okay. You hate the lights, the computers, the neon grid, the hair, the vest, and the website? Wow. That's an intense amount of hatred. It's a great deal of focused, very specific hatred. Okay, but sticking with technology, which, as you may know, is much faster now than it was in 1994. This is a CBC News article entitled "Almost 8 million UK jobs could be lost to AI," new report suggests.
A new report is sounding the alarm over the impact of artificial intelligence on the job market in the United Kingdom. It suggests almost 8 million jobs in the UK could be lost to AI. But could this become a reality? Anna Cunningham is following this story for us this morning in London, and she joins us now. So, big question here. How will this be, and what exactly is this report telling us?
Morning, Marianne. It does sound quite alarming, doesn't it? I think the one thing that we can say for sure is that none of us really know how our workplaces are going to operate in terms of AI, even within, say, 5 years. But this research coming out this morning from the British think tank, the IPPR, it's the Institute for Public Policy Research, they are warning that entry-level jobs, part-time jobs, and also those administrative posts, they're the ones that are most at risk. They've analysed 22,000 jobs, and what they found is that currently they say 11% are at risk, but that could potentially climb to as much as 59% as AI advances. Now, just to give you some context, this comes as the UK is currently in a technical recession. There is a desperate lack of affordable housing.
So if you're not noticing it, on the left-hand side, they're going through all the different people that are going to be most affected by AI, which are women workers, young workers, low-wage earners, entry-level positions. Like, this is, this is a problem.
Housing here, so that prospect of no job, no salary will be worrying for many people. In terms of who is actually at risk, it's women, young workers, lower wage earners, entry-level positions and admin jobs. So we're talking about secretarial work, customer services, that sort of database management, stock-taking type of jobs that would be affected by AI. Now, Carsten Young is a senior economist with the IPPR, and he's told us that, in fact, it's not all doom and gloom if this move to AI is dealt with properly.
This is a bit of a shock because people, have invested in their skills, and AI being able to do some of these tasks is a bit will require some adjustment, but it also, as we show, if we get this right, this really could free up people's time to do more meaningful work, to do more value-added work.
That was Carsten.
Ooh, yay. Okay, that's good. We can do value-added work, so that's exciting. I think that'll probably add like 80,000 jobs to the 8 million. But hey, maybe I'm just being a doomer. Really though, I do feel that it needs to be addressed before it becomes an actual problem and it starts displacing people from jobs without any real options, right? And we have to start considering about, what we're going to do as more and more jobs are technically being proposed to be taken over by automation in some way or form. Okay, what's next? Actually, before I even go to the next thing, and the thing is, I know that a lot of people have skepticism about how many jobs AI is going to take. Okay, but and I personally don't have a full grasp on how effective it will be in the long term, right? We've seen all sorts of AI like acting funny sort of YouTube videos and whatever else, but I've also seen it do some incredible things, and so I do have my concerns about it. There's been plenty of studies, including this one, that do show that there's a great deal of at least effectiveness, which leaves the corporations essentially to be making the choice as to whether or not to hire human workers or to invest in technology. Okay, this next video is from a day ago from CBC News entitled "Marineland Should Be Shut Down," says animal rights activists, after multiple deaths of large sea animals at the aquarium.
Well, animal rights activists are calling on the Ontario government to shut down Marineland. It follows news that 2 more of its beluga whales died this month. That brings the total number of whale deaths to 17 since 2019 at the Niagara Falls tourist attraction. Ontario's Animal Welfare Services have been investigating the park since 2020. A statement from Marineland says both whales died due to an abnormal twisting of the stomach. A dolphin, 2 seals, and 2 sea lions have also died during the same time period. For more on this, I'm joined now by Melissa Matlow. She is the World Animal Protection Campaign Director, and she joins me tonight in studio. So, 17 belugas dead since 2019. What do you make of today's news?
That's an alarming number of animal deaths in such a short
Yeah,
amount of time.
no kidding.
This is heartbreaking news. I'm really sad about it, and I'm also frustrated because what does it take to shut this place down?
And I guess that is the question right now, right? Like, what does it take? So many people have been expressing their outrage on social media about this. I want to read a statement. I've referred to the statement from Marineland. It says, quote, "All the whales are under constant weekly supervision and oversight by the government regulator and cared for daily by in-house vets and numerous external consultants." They add that the reality is that all animals eventually die from one cause or another, whether in the wild or in captivity. What's your response to that?
Well, sure, all animals die at some point, but we haven't heard of anything like this, where 16 belugas, 1 orca, on top of many other types of animals that have suffered, have died in a short amount of time. This is a facility that has faced widespread criticism from not only local residents, but people around the world. There have been many cases of animal cruelty there over the years. Yeah. It hasn't improved when asked by enforcement officers to improve. It regularly flouts the law. I think
belugas are incredibly smart and aware. Totally. No, it's a disaster. And I remember going to this place as a kid, actually, one time, which makes me even more sad, because I remember enjoying it as a child and not understanding the implications of this shit, and it sucks to look back on it and be like, oh god damn, another childhood memory tainted forever.
It's enough is enough. It's time to close it down.
Your group has been following this closely for years. Yeah. What are the conditions like in Marineland for these animals?
I mean, if you're talking about a beluga whale, at one point Marineland had nearly 50 beluga whales in small concrete chlorinated tanks next to roller coasters and a highway. You don't need to be a marine mammal welfare expert to know there's something wrong with that. That's far too many animals. And the reason why the situation has gotten this bad is because Ontario is the only jurisdiction in Canada that doesn't have proper proactive zoo licensing in place. They never should have been allowed to have that many animals in a confined space.
I think that sums it up pretty well. Never should have been allowed to have that many animals in a confined space without any real licensing and with a terrible track record. Yeah, that's a big number. I don't like that number either. Agreed, Disco. By the way, you guys were saying that you could hear... Did you actually hear the crash happen? Like, I'm trying to figure out how much this mic is picking up, like, from things far away. Because that's through a space station wall. You know, hearing two space stations, or spaceships colliding into one another in space. Pretty incredible. Yeah, you could hear it. I take it that you could also hear me yelling at people then as well. How many since 2019? I think it was at 50 or 17 belugas. So it was like more than 4 a year on the belugas. But then a bunch of other animals died, like seals and porpoises and other. Okay. Yeah, it was an odd, large number, 17 or 19. BCAT is right. Let's go to this next story. This is from Associated Press from a day ago, where strong winds are now driving the forest fires, which we talked about yesterday, burning in 18 Mexican states, are now spreading even further.
The warming temperature.
God, that's not good. You can see it going all the way up this ridge right here to the top of that hill. Oh my God. This shit is nuts. Okay. So yeah, we're actually going to visit two different stories, both that we've been discussing. That one just now, and this one in front of us right here. This is a situation that we've been discussing. I guess it's only been 2 streams now, but this is in Puerto Rico, where dengue cases are now rising. Health officials have declared an epidemic. And we were just talking about dengue in Argentina, which was having abnormally high numbers of cases. But this is in Puerto Rico. So let's see this.
Vacina da dengue, a validade ao lote, material descartável.
Dengue cases are spread across entire U.S. territory of 3.2 million people. Wait, what? That didn't make sense to me just now. What was that? Oh, nearly half of cases are usually concentrated in San Juan, the capital of Puerto Rico. Following a spike in dengue cases, officials in Puerto Rico declared an epidemic. At least 549 cases of mosquito-borne diseases have been recorded in the U.S. territory. The last dengue epidemic in Puerto Rico was declared in 2012. Okay. People have stopped attending which places? Oh, like the marine parks. Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like it's a vicious cycle, right? Those like marine park owners, they start like cutting on costs that are making less money. They stop treating the animals as well. It's a fucked up situation. Maybe we should just let animals be in nature. Okay. Yeah. Staying in South America. Or, I guess technically the Caribbean. Blackouts brew unrest in Cuba's Santiago. This is from Reuters.
A crowd swarms a state-run market in Cuba's Santiago de Cuba, jostling for a chance at a once-monthly ration of government-subsidized chicken. But panic ensues as rumors of scarcity.
You want Jessica Fletcher? You only have 23 likes. Low on likes for Jessica.
Spread, and that's when the lights go out again. This is life here, this father of two explains. You live with no plan, basically. A dozen residents and
Here, I'll be nice. I'll be nice. It's been a tough stream for everybody, I think. It's been a rough week. I know that much. Here.
Santiago neighborhoods told Reuters of their frustration at food shortages and electricity outages that sometimes top 10 hours a day. A long-standing US trade embargo and related sanctions, as well as an inefficient state-run economy, have led to shortages of food, fuel and medicine, while Cuba's obsolete power plants cannot meet demand.
Let's be real. Most of that is manufactured by way of America's trade embargo, which he did at least mention, which was nice. But, yeah. This is an unfortunate situation right
Caribbean
here.
Outpost of Santiago,
but they've been having these sorts of things happen more and more frequently. Thank you. Oh, for Angela Lansbury. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, to a slightly positive bit of news. Let's go to this. This is from Reuters from 13 hours ago, where Thailand has passed a marriage equality bill.
This is the moment Thailand's parliament approved a marriage equality bill on Wednesday. It is a landmark step that moves the country closer to becoming Asia's third territory to legalize same-sex unions. The legislation was passed by 400 of the 415 lawmakers present. The bill's passage marks a significant step towards cementing Thailand's position as one of Asia's most liberal countries on lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender issues, alongside its traditional conservative Buddhist values. The country has long been a draw for same-sex couples. It has a vibrant and visible LGBT social scene for locals and expatriates. Thailand also has targeted campaigns to attract LGBT travelers. However, rights activists have long maintained its laws and institutions do not reflect social attitudes towards LGBT people and same-sex couples. LGBT activists said the passing of the bill was a positive step, but there were some unresolved issues. During Wednesday's debate, LGBT advocates who were on the parliamentary committee had pushed unsuccessfully for the terms father and mother to be changed to the gender-neutral parent in references to the family unit. The marriage...
Okay, well, mostly positive news there, I would say. Okay, alright. I don't know why I have this set up the way I have done it. I don't have an explanation why we went to Thailand first, now we're going to go to Europe, but that's, I guess you can call it my system. This is from the Associated Press from a day ago, where thousands rallied against Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban after audio recording released, which enlightened many individuals, illuminating a corruption scandal.
Mondjuk el, hogy semmi sem mehet ezután úgy, ahogy eddig volt.
Is it quiet? Sorry, that last video was quiet. I think I had it on full volume. This one's much louder. What's he saying? I actually gotta make this quieter now because I gotta read these subtitles. So, hold on a second. Let's say it loud that nothing can go on the way it was before. Let's tell the ruling power that the government must look into the eyes of the people and take political and legal responsibility for the mistakes that they've made, and even more so for the sins that they've committed. Finally, there's a force character who represents what for me is the problem with the current situation. But hold on, I'm just gonna bring this up. Where did I put it? Ah, shit. I know there's a fucking article that God damn it, I'm just gonna go with this one. Okay, I'm gonna read from this ABC News article. A former Hungarian government insider turned critic released an audio recording on Tuesday that he says proves that top officials conspired to cover up corruption. The latest development in a scandal that has shaken Prime Minister Viktor Orban's domination of the country's politics. Wait, this one doesn't actually... Oh, there it is. The country's largest protests in years erupted in early February when it was revealed that the president had issued a pardon to a man imprisoned for covering up child sexual abuses by the director of a state-run orphanage. There we go. Viktor Orban. Covering up and pardoning people who commit sex crimes. That's fun. Thanks for bringing out Jessica Fletcher. You're very welcome. It's much louder. Yeah, you're right. And that's been the struggle oftentimes with these sorts of things. Trying to keep the volume at the same level. Staying with these countries in near proximity to the Ukraine situation. This is actually, I feel like we should have done this with the other one. Fucking hell. How did this happen? Anyway, this is an unfortunate bit of news. 50 years after the former Yugoslavia protected abortion rights, that legacy is now under threat. So, Yugoslavia. Let's see what you're doing over here. The future is progressive and not something that can go backwards. Great point. Very much shadows of what's happening in America right now, where many of us, I think, thought the same thing. That there was no way for Roe v. Wade to be overturned and for things to go backwards, and, well, we were wrong. Okay. Alright, this is a piece. We're not going to watch this whole thing. But this is a CBC News piece from a day ago saying that it is estimated that $486 billion will be required to rebuild Ukraine. This is a UN-supported study.
Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine is in its third year, and the costs to Ukraine are mounting. A UN-backed study estimates the cost of rebuilding Ukraine will be nearly $500 billion over the next decade. The most heavily impacted sectors are housing, transport, industry, agriculture, and energy. So who should pay this astronomical bill? Well, depends on who you ask. Ukraine wants the West to use seized Russian assets, but Western nations are divided on whether such a move is even legal. Pierre Heilbronn is Special Envoy of the French President for Ukraine's Relief and Reconstruction. It's good to meet you, sir. Thank you for coming in.
And thank you very much for inviting me.
I'd like to get to the cost of rebuilding Ukraine in just a second, but first I want to get your assessment on the state of the war, because that's got to be dealt with before the reconstruction.
Oh, right. Hold on. I'm going to skip forward here. Shit. I don't know where this...
Ukraine, and our companies employ more than 30,000 Ukrainians in the country, still there, still growing, still very much operating in a very vibrant society.
How challenging is it, while the war is still ongoing and sort of the focus is on the need for military aid, at least in a broader conversation, how challenging is it to get financial support or investment commitments for that reconstruction and the rebuilding aspect of Ukraine's future while the conflict hasn't subsided?
I think that's a very difficult question, and on top of the mind of many entrepreneurs and many financial.
I can't find the spot that I wanted to look at. Anyways, important part is that rebuilding Ukraine is going to cost, on the near term, tens of billions of dollars and potentially hundreds of billions of dollars over the long term. So, yeah, it's bad on multiple levels. We genuinely need there to be less construction, less building, and the more things that get destroyed by war, the more that we wind up destroying our environment. It's fucked to say it, it seems like, but like the rebuilding of Ukraine is somehow like this bad, like this net negative on the environment. And while it's good for humanity, I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. It's just that the effects of these things, which is why I believe that we need to stop wars in general. Not that I have the power to do it, but just, you know, if these kinds of conflicts and things keep happening, it's just going to make it harder for us to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve with the climate. Okay, let's look at this one real quick. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This isn't from the Wall Street Journal. This is from the Associated Press discussing the Wall Street Journal journalist Evan Gershkovich, who has been in Russian prison for over a year.
This week marks a year since Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich was arrested in Russia. The U.S. citizen was detained while on a reporting trip to the Ural mountain city of Yekaterinburg and later charged with espionage. The authorities still have not revealed the details of the allegations or evidence to back up the charges, which he and his newspaper categorically deny. The U.S. government has also declared him wrongfully detained, and officials say he is a political pawn. The 32-year-old reporter is being held in Moscow's Lefortovo prison, notorious for its harsh conditions. He appears in court roughly once a month for a hearing on his continued detention, and before the courtroom is closed for proceedings, we usually catch a glimpse of him in the defendant's cage. His family and friends say that he's doing as well as he can under the circumstances and is maintaining his sense of humor. How much longer Gershkovich will spend behind bars remains unclear. He is widely expected to be exchanged for a Russian held in the West, but it is impossible to say when that might happen. Past experiences show that a trial must be held first, usually with a guilty verdict and a long prison sentence.
Yeah. Just felt necessary to be keeping aware of these sorts of things. 11:48 p.m. where you are? Interesting. Well, the space station is currently located over the East Coast, where it's 1:50 a.m. Okay. I'm gonna need a quick break, and I'll be right back. Well, I hope you've been enjoying the stream so far. Streamlord just needs a quick break If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. And do consider subscribing to my Patreon so that you can become even more galactic. Alright, chat, I am back. Okay, now we are going to look at the situation in Gaza. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick look at this protest that just happened 22 hours ago in Jordan.
ما في داعي لكل هذا الهجوم. احنا عدونا واحد، في هون ارض للمحتل واحنا جايين ضد هاي الارض مش ضد. نتامل بعدم استخدام العنف ولا الضرب، يعني يتركوا الشباب يمشوا يروحوا يعملوا اللي بدهم اياه، لكن بالنهايه
The youth walk do what they want, and in the end, the demonstration will be peaceful. They did not go out with the aim of anything else. Yep, sums it up. It doesn't. I don't think they actually make it clear in this video, but I looked into it. They were. Oh, it's actually in the title. Yeah. The protest was actually by the Israeli embassy in Amman. Okay, so that was the reason for the protest. Definitely solidarity. This next video is actually, these next two videos are going to discuss the bombing and airstrikes that have been happening in Rafah. Now, we've been talking about it for, it feels like weeks now, in terms of what needs to happen with Rafah, and it needs to be stopped. The invasion and the attacking on Rafah is absolutely unacceptable. Everything that Israel's basically done since October 7th has been unacceptable. And we could discuss all the unacceptable things they did before that, but point is that there's no way to justify attacking Rafah. The US put down fake red lines, just basically said it would be a bad idea. But as we know, telling Israel something's a bad idea isn't necessarily an effective strategy. And this video we're about to watch is from 21 hours ago, where Rafah bombing intensifies despite UN truce call. This is from Al Jazeera English.
Israeli forces have again targeted residential areas in Rafah. Gaza's health ministry says at least 12 people were killed in the latest attack on the city. More than 1.5 million people are taking shelter there. The Israeli military's continued strikes ignore the UN Security Council's resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud is in Rafah. He's joining us live. Hani, so tell us about this strike on Rafah, and more generally, I mean, these airstrikes on Rafah happen almost every day. Are you able to discern or make out what the Israeli military is targeting?
Is it just me, or does it feel like this guy hasn't left this spot for months? He's just been standing here. I think he's got a serious tan from just standing here in the sun at this like gate, I guess you'd call it. Like, but I feel like I've seen him standing here in this exact spot like 200 times now. This guy, oh, volume up. Sorry. Yes, you're absolutely right. I fucked you. I fucked it. I'm so sorry, chat. That is on me. Oh, I wish I could do my job better. No, you're all right. You can't hear anything because I'm not doing my job. All right, we're gonna go back. Here we go. Take two. Take two.
Israeli forces have again targeted residential areas in Rafah. Gaza's health ministry says at least 12 people were killed in the latest attack on the city. More than 1.5 million people are taking shelter there. The Israeli military's continued strikes ignore the UN Security Council's resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud is in Rafah. He's joining us live. Hani, so tell us about this strike on Rafah, and more generally, I mean, these airstrikes on Rafah happen almost every day. Are you able to discern or make out what the Israeli military is targeting?
Yes, well, not only intense attacks across Rafah city, but also the constant buzz sound of drones causing and grinding physically and mentally on people, causing sleep deprivation, coupled with the massive airstrikes on residential homes across the city, from the eastern part of it all the way to the evacuation zone in the western part of the Mawasi evacuation. So we're looking early hours of last night all the way.
This is fucking ridiculous.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
This is fucking ridiculous. Like this image, like these images of like all this shit burning in Rafah that's getting bombed. Like what in the fuck? Israel said from the beginning, not even from the beginning, but at some point they said move south, and then they were like, oh no, go even further south. So everybody went as far south as possible. Rafah, you can't go any further south than Rafah unless you go into Egypt. It's fucking insane. It's a slaughter. They're just shooting fish in barrels, and it needs to be stopped. It's driving me insane. I did everything right.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
You're right. I did. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Just within the past hour, almost 5 residential homes have been attacked relentlessly. 4 people have been confirmed killed. They're transferred to Najjar Hospital with close to 25 of different injuries, all reported to either here Kuwait Hospital or a Najjar Hospital or Gaza European Hospital, given the location, or depending on the location where the residential homes that have been targeted. But also, not only residential homes, we're also looking at farmland.
Jesus
livestock
Christ.
farms have been targeted as well, just causing further destruction, not only now to the physical landscape.
Do you I'm losing my mind. But do you remember when Israel early on was saying, oh, we are doing everything possible to protect civilians. We sent out all these flyers from helicopters and shit. But now they're bombing the place they told people to go on the flyer. What the fuck happened? What the fuck? How is it they can't literally? And the fact is, they said they were going to put people in humanitarian islands. Nobody wants to go. They haven't managed to do that. Nobody's going to go with Israel to concentration camps in the desert.
The city, but also the resources and areas that provide supplies and some food supplies for the 1.5 million displaced Palestinians across Rafah city. The Israeli military, we're looking at little less than 48 hours after the resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire was passed, and an intense bombing campaign concentrated in Rafah city. And what seems to be Netanyahu and his war cabinet just want to confirm that only military options are working across the Gaza Strip, and further confirm his ongoing threats of expanding the military ground invasion in Rafah city.
Well, you heard it again from this man. What did you say his name is? Hani? I think it's Hani. This guy is a freaking hero. He's been reporting from the same spot for months now, telling us what's happening somehow. yeah. If it weren't for him, I feel like we'd have about 75%, maybe not that much, but like 60% less news from Gaza. Because I genuinely feel like we've seen this dude like 200 times now. Oh, he's a G. Okay, what the fuck am I doing next? Okay, oh. Yeah. Let's talk about this next. This is from 12 hours ago. I found this to be very interesting. This is from Breakthrough News. Here is why millions of people around the world are marching for Palestine this Saturday. Thought it'd be good for us to talk about this, as it's 3 days away from now, and gives people time to think about what they might do on Saturday. At the very least, hopefully, since we'll all know about this, we'll be able to tell other people about what's happening, and therefore, somehow paying it forward. Okay. Wait, what the fuck? Why have you done that? Why have you forsaken me just now, YouTube? Oh shit! I've forsaken myself. I've forsaken myself. That's the next video. This is from 9 hours ago. We're just gonna quickly watch this, but this is from even more airstrikes in Rafah, raising fears of imminent ground assault. This is the global news. Shit, I think... Oh, there we go. The escalation raises fears. A long-threatened ground offensive could be coming. The day after Israel was required to be a ceasefire, 4 houses around us, the bombing, they have threatened us with an incursion. They say that they've been given the green light for the Rafah incursion. Where is the Security Council? Where are all the people? Where are all the people when it is happening to us? We are living here in death. Look at where our women are. Look at where our children are. Look at all of our little ones. Look at our children. Where should we go? Where should they fucking go? Israel and America have thrown at the wall all the Security Council resolutions. There are resolutions from before 20 or 30, such as 338 and 424. No one cares about us, the Palestinian people. If there was a Palestinian state, then all of this would not have happened. We are against killing, against torture, and against imprisonment, but we want a Palestinian state. If there was a Palestinian state, none of this would happen. We are people who love peace. We love life. So we can bring up our children and educate them.
I'm not behind nor in front of any campaign to delegitimize the state of Israel, but if we want to use this expression, I'm part of a movement which wants the end of the apartheid, which wants that Israel behaves and lives in accordance with international law. Is it that such an affront to expect that Israel, member of the United Nations, whose existence I've never questioned, behaves like it should as a member of the United Nations that respects international law? Because this is the point. I don't question, for the records now and for the future, I do not question the existence of the state of Israel. I say today that Israel cannot behave as it does as an apartheid state and face no consequences.
Exactly.
I thought the U.S.
Wait, I don't remember this part of this video. Hold on. Alright, we're gonna watch this part. I don't even remember what this was. Oh. Hold on. No, this is getting ahead of ourselves. We have more to look at before we get to this. I already have this part of this video. ready for later. Okay. Although, wait, is this longer? No, it's shorter. It's like 5 seconds. Okay. Now, let's go to that video that I tried to set up before. This is breakthrough news. Here's why millions of people around the world are marching for Palestine this Saturday.
People in every major city around the world are
No, you're totally right. They need to be held accountable for the war crimes.
against Israel's genocide this Saturday in honor of Land Day, one of the most important days in the history of the Palestinian struggle. It's commemorated in Palestine every year and was the inspiration behind the 2018 Great March of Return, when Palestinians in Gaza peacefully marched to the border fence with Israel and protested the occupation for well over a year. So where does Land Day come from? First, we need to start with some basic history. The whole concept behind Israel as a country was that it was meant to be a Jewish-only ethno-state in Palestine. The obvious problem with this was that Palestine was always 100% Arab. The only way to create a Jewish majority in Palestine was to expel the indigenous Arab population and take their land. And that's exactly what happened. Israel was quite literally founded through a series of massacres that wiped out entire Palestinian villages, known today as the Nakba, Arabic for the catastrophe. The Palestinians, however, refused to leave, and since Israel's founding in 1948, the fundamental question before the self-proclaimed Jewish state has always boiled down to how Israel can expel the remaining Palestinians if they refuse to leave. Palestinians continued to live in historic Palestine, including within Israel's borders, which made them citizens of Israel. On March 11, 1976, Israel declared that it would be annexing a large tract of Palestinian land in the Galilee, the northernmost part of Israel, where there's a strong Arab majority. Israeli officials stated that the goal behind the operation was to Judaize the Galilee. In response, Palestinian groups called for protests and general strikes. The Israelis declared a curfew on March 29th to try to stop these demonstrations from happening, but it didn't work. And the next day, the demonstrations went forward anyway. Israel deployed thousands of police officers and soldiers who raided Palestinian villages, arresting activists and political leaders. They also fired live ammunition at demonstrators, killing 6 Palestinians and injuring and arresting hundreds. March 30th, 1976 came to be known as Land Day, and since then, Palestinians have commemorated Land Day by protesting and continuing to raise the centrality of land to the Palestinian cause. But Land Day also serves as a reminder that Israel will never escape the resistance of the Palestinian people, not even within its own borders. Israel constantly tries to present itself as a highly tolerant, democratic state that treats all of their citizens equally, regardless of if they're Arab or Jewish. But at the same time, Israel enforces a two-tiered legal regime against its Palestinian citizens and ultimately aims to expel all Arabs from historic Palestine. Not only will Israel never reconcile these two contradictory instincts, but it'll also never see peace until it realizes that these two things can't both hold true at the same time. Famed Israeli historian Benny Morris admits this, saying, quote, "The Israeli Arabs are a time bomb. Their slide into complete Palestinization has made them an emissary of the enemy that's among us. They're a potential fifth column."
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self.
Anyone can volunteer to serve in the IDF? Is that true? I think I heard something about that.
In both demographic and security terms, they're liable to undermine the state, so that if Israel again finds itself in a situation of existential threat, as in 1948, it may be forced to act as it did then. Morris is right about one thing. Palestinian citizens of Israel aren't, nor have they ever been, loyal to Israel. They do, in a sense, constitute a threat, but not because they slid into Palestinization. They were never not Palestinian, and no one was more adamant about that than Israel itself, who always insisted that Palestinians could never be equal to Jews. And while Zionists claim to have a special connection to Palestinian land, in the last few months, all we've seen them do is defile it and talk about how they're going to use it for real estate speculation. For Palestinians, the connection to the land isn't theoretical or commercial. Being Palestinian means you come from Palestine, you lived in Palestine, or your ancestors lived in Palestine for centuries and centuries. If you look at the newspaper clippings from the years following Israel's attempted Judaization of the Galilee, you see how obsessed Israel was with the demographic balance of the area. Zionist newspapers constantly list out how many Jews there were compared to Arabs, the need to settle more Jews, and so on. But the idea that having more Jews in Palestine somehow replaces the centuries of culture that Palestine...
Okay, well, I think you get that. I think we watched that whole video just now. Couldn't help it. It's very informative. And it reminded us of why people are marching. Because of Land Day. So, if you are the sort of person who's inclined to go to protests, well, know that that's happening on Saturday. Okay, next. Why is this here and not back? Oh god, I have been sucking at this today. Okay. This is from 14 hours ago. Exchange of fire along Lebanon-Israel border kills 8, including 7 Lebanese. Yeah, the real estate, that that one really is hitting me right now. I gotta be real. Like, if you're killing people for real estate value, that makes you a real life villain, okay? Regardless of the genocide. I think anybody who's committing genocide's a villain. But if you're just, you know, if you're killing people or like just displacing people for the real estate value, just to, you know, oh god, fuck yourself. Okay, that's very sad, but decent place to end that video. So, people in Lebanon are also facing a great deal of problems due to Israel's attacks here. This is going kind of back to what we skipped over just now. This is from 11 hours ago. International pressure on Israel won't work, Netanyahu says. This is from Reuters.
I think the bad thing about the U.S. decision in the United Nations Security Council was that it encouraged Hamas to take a hard line and to believe that international pressure will prevent Israel from A, freeing the hostages and destroying Hamas. And that, therefore, my decision not to send the delegation to Washington.
Sorry, I was trying to read that. I just realized one of public utilities comments got auto-modded, but only Mo and Open I think, can see it, and BCAT. Okay, we gotta listen to this again.
I think the bad thing about the U.S. decision in the United Nations Security Council was that it encouraged Hamas to take a hard line and to believe that international pressure will prevent Israel from A, freeing the hostages and destroying Hamas. And that, therefore, my decision not to send the delegation to Washington in the wake of that resolution was a message to Hamas. It was a message first.
It's a message to Hamas. Oh my god. This dude is nuts. Oh, yeah. You get some sleep, Disco. You do what you gotta do. Totally understandable. It's getting very late. I started super late tonight. I feel like midweek I get pushed back by Left Past 10 and Leftist Mafia on Thursdays, as I try not to mix streams, right? I try not to cross streams. That's more difficult than it seems when you just say it. In practice, much more difficult. What am I doing? Yeah. Enough of Bibi Netanyahu saying very stupid things that make no sense. There was a message to him to stop genociding people. I don't even know if Hamas was mentioned in the... Were they? I need to look at it. But it felt like, to me, it was just a message to Bibi to stop now. This is from Al Jazeera 9 hours ago. This piece was interesting. The U.S. is trying to force the Israeli government's collapse. This is a AJ opinion piece.
I think the Biden administration right now is angling to simply get rid of Netanyahu, to force a collapse of the current government, with the bet that the next government will be led by people like Gallant or Gantz, who the US will then try to present as moderate voices compared to Netanyahu and the right-wing people that are in his government right now. But the idea that there is actually a significant daylight between these different individuals or leaders on the matter of Gaza, I think is a massive overstatement. The Biden administration is essentially going to try to reduce the problems in Israel to Netanyahu alone. And I find that unlikely to succeed. Reality is that in Israel right now, you do have a very strong level of support for the war, for the manner in which the war has been conducted, and a very little appetite for any type of diplomacy or compromise. And to paper over that and simply say, oh, this was just because of Netanyahu's leadership, may work in the short run to overcome the last months before the US election, but it is not going to work in the long run. Very much depends on whether the Biden administration decides to actually seek to implement a ceasefire, which would mean that they would have to put some material pressure on Israel. And that includes, or has to include, stopping or limiting some of the arms sales. So far, we have seen no indication from the Biden administration to be willing to do that. Instead, I think they're hoping that by causing the collapse of the government and getting a new leadership that they have an easier time working with, that with that will also come a shift in Israel's policy in favor of a ceasefire or stopping the war. That appears to be their calculation, but it is based on a very, very dramatic bet, which is that that type of a confrontation with Netanyahu ultimately will result in a more amenable Israeli government rather than a more radical one. I think there's been ideas and some thinking about this, but it's not been put into effect until recently when the administration invited senior officials who are in the current government but are political opponents of Netanyahu to come and visit Washington. I think these are some of the subtle steps that the administration has taken in order to kind of pressure the Israeli government and force it to collapse. The collapse may happen, but what happens after the collapse is quite uncertain, and Israel may very well end up in an even more radical right-wing government than what it currently has.
Okay. So yeah, that piece was honestly, and the thing is, we've been talking about this to some degree up to this point, right? Where, there's been discussion about how, we need to get Bibi out of the government and replace him with somebody. We've been talking about how the protesters themselves are essentially saying that they got to get Bibi out of the government. He's the reason why Israel is losing favor in the international community. And it's really, it's like a combination of ignorance and gaslighting, in my estimation, that just, is pretty frustrating. Pretty frustrating to deal with. And I honestly, I didn't realize that this, and the thing is, it's not guaranteed, right? This is an opinion piece, but the way he's framed this is quite well, it's quite stark, right? It certainly puts the image in your mind, and it doesn't, like, when you start trying to parse through the details of it, thinking, okay, well, what is it that the United States government has been doing? What is it they've been portraying? What have they been saying? You know, and a lot of it seems to kind of line up, at least recently. Before, there was no even consideration of them doing that, but now that the tides have shifted and they've at least recognized the fact, because it seems like it took them months to realize that the tides were in fact shifting. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like a very interesting thought piece here. Nothing is in stone on that or anything like that, but I think it's definitely something to consider while we're going through all this stuff. Okay, this next one is a speech from Pope Francis. This is interesting. He spoke apparently to an Israeli and a Palestinian, both an Israeli and a Palestinian father who were apparently lost. They both lost daughters in the Middle East conflict. Well, this is the way that it's being phrased, but anyways, let's listen to this. Actually, I think I have to read because he speaks in Italian. Here today, in this audience, there are two people, two fathers. They are in the first row, an Israeli and an Arab.
Un israeliano e uno arabo.
Both of them lost their daughters in this war, and they're both friends. They don't look at the enmity of war, but at the friendship of two men who are fond of each other and have passed through the same crucifixion. And while I think it's hard, not necessarily hard, but it's a little bit obfuscated, I think what he's trying to say is that we're all human beings, and we need to treat each other as such. Not that I'm some big fan of the Pope, but he is the woke Pope, so I'm going to give him points. Okay. Well, that's it for me here today, chat. Hope you all enjoyed the stream. My voice is pretty tired. Well, a lot of stuff we covered here today. But seems like we all got through it together. Till I see you next time, you stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation.